Mitigation pleas ahead of sentencing tomorrow in a high-profile corruption trial. ATV News may cease to operate normally next month. And another policeman shot and killed in the United States.
Hello and a very good evening. The High Court today heard mitigation arguments for 4 defendants in the corruption trial involving former Chief Secretary for Administration Raphael Hui and former top executives of Sun Hung Kai Properties. The judge will pass sentence on the defendants at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Owen Fong reports.
The 4 defendants were taken back to Lai Chi Kok Reception Centre following today's hearing. In his mitigation argument, Raphael Hui's defence counsel Edwin Choi told the courts that his client has made enormous contributions to Hong Kong. Choi stated that Hui played an important part in restoring a sense of steadiness and stability in the government during his time as Chief Secretary for Administration between 2005 and 2007. The defence counsel added that Hui was given the unenviable part in pushing ahead constitutional reform in 2005. While the attempt ultimately failed, Choi continued, it did not result in thousands of youngsters protesting because Hui worked tirelessly to engage in dialogue. A number of letters were also presented in court as part of Hui's mitigation. In his letter to the court, former Chief Executive Donald Tsang described Hui as a person of extraordinarily high intelligence, interpersonal skill and implementation ability. Tsang said he was devastated when he heard that the jury had found Hui guilty of misconduct in public office. The former chief executive noted that those in government were aware of Hui's lavish lifestyle, but they took it as his personal choice and a benefit flowing from his family endowment. In his letter, Tsang also recounted Hui's effort as Secretary for Financial Services during the financial crisis in 1998. The former chief executive said he's a strong believer in the free market. But it was Hui and the staff at the Hong Kong Monetary Authority who persuaded him the need to intervene to prevent the collapse of Hong Kong's economy. In another letter, former Legislative Council member Lau Ching-shek wrote that Hui flexibly sought the common interests among different interest groups on issues that affected the livelihood of people. Lau said he admired Hui for his abilities even though the two disagreed on different matters. He deserves the title of Master of Ideas, Lau wrote. Meanwhile, Choi Lap-chi, former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Hong Kong, stated that Hui has done a lot for Hong Kong people. Choi stressed that his respect for Hui will not change regardless of the outcome of the court case. Owen Fung, TVB News.
Other defendants found guilty in the corruption trial also submitted their mitigation pleas today. Former Sun Hung Kai Properties Joint Chairman Thomas Kwok's lawyer said what his client did was not the worst of the worst. The defence counsel argued that only a short prison sentence is warranted. Evelina Lowe reports.
Sun Hung Kai Properties Chairman Raymond Kwok arrived at the High Court this morning to hear his brother's mitigation plea. Raymond Kwok is the only defendant found not guilty of any charges in the corruption trial. Thomas Kwok's son also showed up. A number of business leaders wrote letters to support Thomas Kwok, including Henderson Land's Lee Shao-ki. The letters were not read out in court, but Kwok's lawyer said the supporters spoke of Kwok's kindness and humility. The defense counsel also said Kwok understands a prison sentence is inevitable, as these convictions will have a serious impact on Hong Kong's reputation as well as people's trust in the government. However, the lawyer said the jury only found Kwok guilty of one of the 3 charges against him. While Kwok doesn't oppose the court stripping him of his position in the company, his defense counsel argued he should not be banned from the position for longer than the term of imprisonment. The lawyer also said Kwok's health has been deteriorating since 2008. To slap Kwok with a prison sentence, the lawyer went on to say, is a punishment to Kwok's wife and would destroy his mother, who had suffered a stroke. The defense counsel pointed out what Kwok did was not the worst of the worst because it can't be proven that he did directly receive any favors because of his relationship with former Chief Secretary for Administration Raphael Hui. The lawyer of Thomas Chan, a former executive director of Sun Hung Kai Properties, described his lawyer as a loyal subordinate and has a good reputation in the business circle. He also asked for a short prison sentence for Chan because he believes that will already serve as a deterrent. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
Asia Television has yet to pay its employees for their salary for November. ATV Executive Director Ip Kapo says he's not sure whether the workers will get paid before Christmas. And the station's news department may cease to operate normally beginning the first day of 2015. Liz Yoon reports.
Concerned about the delay in salary payments by ATV, the Labour Department today sent 4 officers to the TV station to assist the employees.
Today, we come over here to give a briefing to the employees to explain their rights and benefits under the employment ordinance, as well as the procedures for lodging claims against the company. And we also brief them the procedures and the legal formalities for applying for the protection for wages on insolvency fund if they wish to use this channel.
Around 200 staff members of ATV attended the briefing. Lee said many of them raised questions regarding their labor rights. Ip Kapo, executive director of ATV, said 700 staff members are owed $15 million in wages. He said he had met with shareholders and investors, Wang Ben-kun and Wang Zheng, in the past few days. They commented that former executive director James Shing and his family had already put in more than $2 billion over the past 5 years, and they had almost fulfilled their historical mission. Ip called on other shareholders, especially Taiwanese tycoon Tsai Ing-meng and Antenna Investment, to inject money into the company to solve the problem. He also said 2 to 3 investors are in talks with ATV on a possible takeover, and there are no plans at this moment to file for liquidation. ATV's news department has issued an open letter expressing its deep regret over the company's failure to pay its employees in time twice since September. According to labor laws, if ATV fails to settle the salary payments within a month, it will break the employment contract with its staff. In the event of that, the news department said no one will be obliged to work starting next month. Without any news programs, ATV may be in breach of the terms of its free-to-air TV license.
I think the staff morale is really bad, and it's a struggle to do the news every day, to keep everyone motivated. So we regret to do this, but we have to take this action now.
Earlier on, Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung said the authorities are seeking advice from the Department of Justice as to whether ATV should be prosecuted. Liz Yun, TVB News.
Turning overseas now, police across the United States are on edge following deadly weekend shootings of officers in New York City and now Florida. Police unions say officers are facing the most dangerous working environments in decades. James Aiken reports.
In the latest attack, a veteran police officer on duty just outside Tampa, Florida, was gunned down early Sunday. Charles Condek was a 45-year-old married father of 6. The suspect, 23-year-old Marco Antonio Perea Jr., has been charged with first-degree murder after running over the victim with a car and speeding from the scene. Police did not comment on a motive for the attack, but it does not appear to be connected to Saturday's police killings in New York City. On Sunday, a candlelight vigil was held in Brooklyn for the 2 police officers who were ambushed in their squad car.
And we want the entire New York City Police Department family to understand that the assassination of members of our family, of our community, we all mourn together.
Gunman Ismail Brinsley, who earlier shot and wounded his ex-girlfriend in Baltimore, shot the officers after posting online that he planned to kill police in retaliation for the deaths of 2 black people, Eric Garner in New York City and Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. He took his own life soon after.
I hope and pray that we can reflect on this tragic loss of lives that have occurred so that we can move forward and find an amicable path to a peaceful coexistence.
Meanwhile, civil rights activists and the family of Eric Garner are condemning the killings.
This is not about trying to take things in our own hands. That does not solve the problem of police misconduct.
We are going in peace, and anyone who's standing with us, we want you to not use Eric Garner's name for violence, because we are not about that.
In the wake of the killings, police associations are asking departments to step up security. The deaths of Garner and Brown have led to public debate and sometimes violent protests over race and law enforcement in America. The White House has since launched a presidential task force aimed at improving law enforcement procedures and engagement across the country. James Aiken, TVB News.
The United States is reviewing whether to put North Korea back on its list of state sponsors of terrorism. This after the FBI identified Pyongyang as the source of a cyber attack that caused Sony Pictures to shelve the release of a controversial satire. The movie depicts an assassination attempt on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Alan Buckner reports.
That's them. U.S. President Barack Obama said he and his advisors are still weighing how to respond.
No, I don't think it was an act of war. I think it was an act of cyber vandalism that was very costly, very expensive. We take it very seriously. We will respond proportionally, as I said.
Sony said it pulled the movie The Interview after distributors refused to show it under threats of a terrorist attack. Obama has already said he believes Sony and its distributors made a mistake.
If we set a precedent in which a dictator in another country can disrupt through cyber, a company's distribution chain or its products, and as a consequence, we start censoring ourselves, that's a problem.
A lawyer for Sony criticized the U.S. government for taking too long to act after the initial cyber attack.
This is a state-sponsored criminal attack on an American corporation and its employees. If the NSA had invaded people's privacy like this, people would have been outraged. North Korea does it and couples it with physical threats, and people sort of sit back for 3 weeks while Sony fights this issue on its own.
Boyce said Sony still intends to distribute the movie, but isn't sure how that will be done just yet. North Korea said Obama is recklessly spreading rumors of a Pyongyang-sponsored attack. In rhetoric it routinely adopts during times of high tension, Pyongyang warned of strikes against the White House, the Pentagon, and the whole U.S. mainland, that cesspool of terrorism. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
South Korean prosecutors have launched an investigation into a leak of data at the country's nuclear power operator. The leak comes amid concerns of potential cyber attacks from North Korea in the wake of the hacking of Sony. The data leaked was described as non-critical. There was no evidence that nuclear control systems were hacked. South Korea's energy minister said he's confident that the country's nuclear plants could block any infiltration by cyber attackers that could compromise safety.
Polling firms have declared a former Tunisian regime official the winner in a presidential runoff. Exit polls give Beji Caid Essebsi more than 55% of the vote, and his opponent, Monsef Marzouki, the outgoing interim president, about 44%. The 88-year-old Essebsi is an official from previous regimes who ran with a collection of former regime officials, businessmen and trade unionists on promises of restoring the prestige of states. The previous moderate Islamist government was unable to address the serious economic and political challenges in the country, including extremist attacks. The runoff election, which saw less than a 60% voter turnout, marks the culmination of a 4-year transition to democracy for Tunisia.
And still ahead in the newscast tonight. Gas supply from the Zhongguan landfill. Over 2,000 subsidized housing units to go on sale next Tuesday. And Santa Claus comes to the rescue in a house fire down under.